All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out to our candidate conversation on mobility and transportation. This forum is hosted by Bike Cleveland and Clevelanders for Public Transit. I'm assuming you all know about those two organizations, but if you don't, you can stop at the tables over here. And we also have a table for Cleveland Metro Parks Issue 5. Cool. A big thanks to both candidates for agreeing to discuss transportation and mobility, to Goldhorn Brewery for hosting this event, and for all of you for taking your time and doing part of your civic duty and being educated voters in Cuyahoga County. As a reminder, this is a nonpartisan 501c3 educational event. Both of the event hosts are recognized as public charities under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, and as a result, cannot and will not endorse or oppose any candidate for public office. In terms of the forum structure tonight, both candidates will be asked the same questions and will be provided with the same amount of time to respond. We will start with questions from Bike Cleveland and Clevelanders for Public Transit, asked by our moderators, Matthew Ahn and Jenna Thomas. Hold on a second. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer the questions. I will be keeping time, and I will be sitting right there next to the young lady with the Bike Cleveland shirt. Through the blinding light. I will be keeping time and will indicate to the candidates when they have 30 seconds left and 10 seconds left. The ring of the bike bell. We were going to use a RTA bus horn, but we couldn't get a bus in here. I got to figure out where I was. We'll indicate when your 60 seconds is up, and our moderators will move on to the next question. Candidates, please be respectful of your time and keep your answers to 60 seconds. We will cut you off and move on if your time goes over. Candidates will be allowed a 30-second rebuttal if they are directly called out or mentioned by other candidates at our moderator's discretion. We will then move on to a lightning round, during which our moderators will quickly move through questions that our candidates will have 15 seconds to answer. Finally, we will end with audience questions that were selected prior to tonight's forum. If time permits, we will open the floor for your questions. If you did not submit a question, or if your question was not chosen, we do encourage you to stick around afterwards and catch the candidates after this event. We do ask that all applause be held until the end. Please feel free to get food or a beverage from the bar throughout the forum. And lastly, early voting has begun and will continue through March 7th. Election Day is November 8th, and you can find the absentee ballot application and information. No, you cannot find it. You can go to Cuyahoga County Board of Elections website to get that information. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jenna Thomas.
And here's the bike bell.
All right. Thank you very much, Jacob. My name is Matthew Ahn. My day job is as a visiting professor of law at Cleveland State University. I am a member of both Bike Cleveland and Clevelanders for Public Transit, and so these issues are very important to me. And I'll turn it over now to Jenna to introduce herself.
Thanks. I'm Jenna. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Manager at Bike Cleveland. You know, I love love bikes and buses, so I'm excited to have our candidates here to talk about them. We're going to start with 90-second opening remarks. I really would just like you to touch on, well, introduce yourself to the audience and touch on what role you see mobility playing in your administration. And we're going to have, that will be 90 seconds each. We're going to start with Mr. Weingart.
Good, thank you. Well, good evening. I'm Lee Weingart, and I'm running for County Executive. I am a former county commissioner, having served in the mid-1990s. I'm coming back 26 years later because our government is broken, forgotten its purpose, and lost its way. I have a lot of ideas we'll discuss tonight. Let's talk about things that I think are really critical in this county, particularly the urban core. I want to help 10,000 families become private homeowners in the urban core of Cuyahoga County. I want to create 4,000 good-paying jobs in the urban core jobs that you can walk to, ride your bike to, or take a bus. We need to redevelop the core of this county, not just for the jobs that it'll bring, but the transport it'll bring to folks who live in the city of Cleveland and in the first-ring suburbs. You probably heard as well that I'm running on a tax reform plan. I want to freeze property taxes for senior citizens. I want to end RETA for everybody else. I want to put more money in your pocket as taxpayers in this county. So I've got a very clear agenda. I've been running now since February of 2021. I ask for your vote. I look forward to your questions tonight. Lee Weingart for County Executive.
Thank you. And Mr. O'Neill.
Good evening. I'm Chris Ronayne, also candidate for County Exec. I'm glad to be a member of Bike Cleveland and glad to have been on my bike tonight and on a bus this week. It's just a usual occurrence for me. I live in the city of Cleveland and live just about 2 miles west of the downtown. I want a Department of Mobility and Infrastructure in the Ronayne administration. I want to see us work better to get people to where they need to go and be smart about it. I see it as quality of life. I see it as a right and necessity in this county, and I also see it as competitiveness, economic competitiveness. So let's do that. Let's put this together in Cuyahoga County. My overall platform is about health, the health of our communities, the health of our economy, and the health of our government that serves you better. I want it to be more relevant in our future of a new Cuyahoga. As I rode tonight down the North Marginal, I thought of a tale of two trails. I was on the North Marginal, first on a very bumpy trail in the city that has been deferred in terms of any maintenance since Mayor Michael White was there. I saw, when I arrived at the Metro Parks part of the trail, I saw an incredibly well-groomed area and well-paved area that I think we need to start thinking about. How are we going to be Trail City USA? I'm the former planning director. I'm the former president of University Circle, where we started a mobility division, and I want to be your future Cuyahoga County executive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to both candidates for their opening statements. We will now move into the prepared statement portion, or prepared question portion, excuse me. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer these questions, and we will alternate who goes first. So over the past 15 years, RTA service has been cut by nearly 30%, while fares have doubled. Cuyahoga County's 2019 Climate Action Plan states as a goal to return public transit service and ridership to 2006 levels by 2025, but the county has not taken any action to achieve this. In your opinion, what actions must the county take to increase public transit ridership? We'll start with Mr. Ronayne.
We need to make it a priority. In this state, we spend less than a penny per person in the state of Ohio on public transit. I think it's actually woefully less than that. We look up to the state of Michigan or east to the state of Pennsylvania, and they spend many, many, many cents more per capita than we do in the state of Ohio. If we want to be competitive, we've got to start thinking about transportation as a priority, and particularly move to a multimodal shift. We're seeing it in other places, and talent is flocking to those places. It's been a relevant discussion item when we went for Amazon HQ. It will continue to be a relevant discussion with firms as whether they stay or go, because the workforce is demanding to see more transit. It's also an equity issue. It's an issue that we need to do right by our citizens here in the state of Ohio. The 12% who have no cars here in Cuyahoga County, the 60% jobs that are transit inaccessible.
Thank you, Mr. Ronayne. And Mr. Weingart?
I think we need to look at transit patterns and ridership patterns in Cuyahoga County. You're seeing people, unfortunately, leaving the core city of Cleveland and leaving the county for the outer suburban areas outside of Cuyahoga County. When I was county commissioner, we were the biggest county in Ohio, and we were growing, and now we're losing population. So if we're going to increase RTA ridership, let's take a hard look at where people are living now and moving in the future.
Thank you. Next question. The city of Cleveland recently passed an updated Complete and Green Streets ordinance, which altered the decision-making process and increased transparency around street design to improve the safety of all road users. Over 1,600 Complete Streets policies have been passed nationwide. Would you support a Complete Streets ordinance at the county level? And how would you work with municipalities to ensure they are installing complete streets? And that'll be Mr. Weingart first.
Sure. So I really view complete streets as a municipal issue. The county, of course, has responsibility for maintaining county roads, county bridges. I would work with the city of Cleveland, with the suburbs on their complete streets programs, but I don't see the county playing a leading role, overtaking the role played by local municipalities.
Kudos to Councilman Kerry McCormick for leading that effort here in the city of Cleveland. I think that there's a pattern playbook we can now look at the city of Cleveland, learn from, and move out to our suburban communities. I would, working with the County Planning Commission and our Public Works Department, craft a model ordinance to either lay in front of our mayors to see if they may adopt it in their communities. We are in a home rule community state. I'm looking out at one of our mayors who's here tonight from University Heights, Michael Brennan. Thanks for being here. You'd be a perfect example of somebody that we would take to you and your council and say, what do you think of this? And I think if we do this, we've got to think about how being a partner in design, a partner in investment, and it is, again, back to equity and transportation. This issue of single streets with large cartways with fast-moving cars only is enough. We cannot continue. It's too much. We've been doing that for too long. We cannot continue on a path where we're in suburbs where there are no sidewalks, where there are places where there's no way to bike to and from because you're on a threatening street. We've got to do better.
Thank you. Since 1980, Cuyahoga County has been either flat in terms of its population or it has been losing population. And suburban sprawl to neighboring counties has eroded the tax base that the RTA relies on to provide transit service. As the population spreads out, maintaining the same level of transit becomes more costly. How will you proactively integrate land use policies into your transportation agenda and direct growth to places where public transit can be successful? We'll go to Mr. Ronayne first.
Where I worked the last decade and a half in University Circle, we sought not to just build transit-oriented developments, we sought to build a transit-oriented community, and we succeeded. We saw 2 red line stations emerge, we saw a health line come through, and we worked on the next mile strategies so that when somebody gets off of mainline transit, they have different ways to get to and from. That's what I'll do at the county. I'll be working with mayors on complete communities where people can get everywhere they need to get their daily needs without having to get in their car to go there. And so this has got to be about priorities. And transit will be in our administration a priority with our Department of Mobility and Infrastructure.
Great.
Mr. Weingart.
So transit really is tied to living and working. We've seen a hollowing out of the urban core of Cuyahoga County, which is why I'm calling for 10,000 new privately owned homes in the urban core, the east side of Cleveland and the first ring suburbs, and 4,000 good paying jobs in the same areas. If you bring people back into Cleveland, if you bring jobs back into Cleveland, you'll need more public transportation. We'll have more public transportation. So I see a triangle of living, working, and riding. And as county executive, I'll make sure that comes into reality.
Thank you. The Health Line on Euclid Avenue is RTA's highest ridership bus route. It is also the only bus rapid transit route in Northeast Ohio. Opened in 2008, RTA originally promoted a 28-minute trip from Public Square to East Cleveland. But since all-door boarding was removed in 2017, trips now take up to 42 minutes, no faster than a regular bus. Will you commit to appointing RTA trustees that will reinstate all-door boarding and expand true rapid transit to more corridors throughout Cuyahoga County? And that will start with Mr. Weingart.
I would. So I'd love to see the county appointees, the 3 county appointees to the RTA board, be RTA riders. Now, there are 3 from the county, 3 from the mayors and managers, and 4 from the city. I'd like to know that all of ours from the county are riders. I'd like to have at least 2 urban and 1 suburban so we get a good cross-section of the use of RTA. So yes, I want to make sure that RTA is efficient and convenient for the riders, and I'll work to shorten that trip from Public Square to East Cleveland.
Thank you, Mr. Ronayne.
Yeah, I rode the Health Line this week. Sydney, wherever you are, and I experienced that from meeting to meeting. We agree. Yes, let's go with all door boarding. I also want to say, I think that years ago a mistake was made in the city of Cleveland, and that was to essentially eliminate what the BRT was intended to do, which was signalization that favored transit, right? And what we did is in the north-south intersects, we favored automobile movements through. And that delayed from Public Square to Windermere by 14 minutes. It was a mistake. I'd work with Mayor Bibb to write that course. I also agree that our transit board members at GCRTA need to be transit riders, need to be familiar, and need to be committed riders that can be our eyes and ears. And I am one of those too. So yes, we need to fix it, and we should fix it, and we should expand BRT in other communities.
Excellent, thank you. Bike and scooter share services, such as Bird and Lime, are currently only meaningfully available within a limited footprint in the county. The county is working to expand those services and create parking hubs to better organize the devices. Would your new administration continue to advance this work, and how would you collaborate with city governments to ensure equitable expansion of these services? Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, the good news is I've already had a pilot in University Circle, which laid the groundwork for this for our administration. It was a transportation division of UCI where we were a pilot for our scooter introduction into this community. It worked well, and it was a part of a multimodal experience. It's a part of the final mile experience, and I would say we need to see it expanded. It's a very efficient form of connectivity between your transit rides and where you're going, or it's an independent ride, and it's also very efficient. I rode it with regularity in University Circle to and from meetings. I think it was insanity to drive and park and drive and park and drive and park and pay and pay and pay. Just ride a scooter.
Mr. Weingart.
So you've seen the growth of the Bird and Lime across the world and really in America in our urban centers. It's not clear to me that the same demand exists in the suburban parts of Cuyahoga County. Now, if that demand exists, and I'd like to do a survey to see if it exists, then I would certainly want to be supportive of that with county-sponsored hubs. But I'd love to see if we could get some corporate sponsors to pay for that. It's an opportunity for them, put their name on something, save some money for the county, yet have that service be available for people who want to ride those scooters.
Thank you. The RTA Board of Trustees has the ability to introduce a county-wide ballot measure to increase the agency's funding. Will you commit to appointing only trustees who would vote for such ballot measure?
I would not. I am not in favor of increasing taxes at this time in Cuyahoga County. We have the highest sales tax in Ohio in Cuyahoga County. On property taxes, there are 3,200 counties in America. Only 144 have higher property taxes than Cuyahoga County. We need to live within our means, as families do right now in these times of inflation. So I am not in favor of any tax increases, and so I will not be in favor of appointing people who want to increase taxes.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
Let me tell you what I am in favor of as it relates to transit funding. I am in favor of leaning in with the legislature, the state of Ohio, and saying we need more. This is about equity. Again, look to the states of Michigan and Pennsylvania and say no more. We need to change the narrative. That narrative to get some of our legislators on board has got to be about mobility. When you start talking about somebody who has a family member who doesn't drive, an elder who needs to get somewhere, we can change that narrative and we can bring dollars from the state of Ohio out of that rainy day fund that grows and grows and grows and just keeps collecting interest. I would go to the state of Ohio first. I would go to the federal government. And I would say of board members, of course we want transit riding board members. I think I also want them to be thought partners in outside sources of funds that need to come home to Cleveland.
Thank you. Clevelanders for Public Transit has called for a countywide tax based on the surface area of parking lots. Such taxes, where they do exist, generate significant revenue to fund public transit operations and other mobility infrastructure. And, if limited to the ground surface area of the lot, would incentivize parking garages over surface lots, or density over sprawl. Would you support such a tax? Mr. O'Neill.
Well, one thing I want to say is our urban centers, particularly downtown University Circle employment hubs and others, the landscape is going to change right before our eyes in terms of land utilization. A very simple fact of remote commuting and resident living in those places as well. So I think we need to work very carefully with the mayors and with council members on what is the right strategy for the future for these places. And my team, a lot of them here from University Circle, we transformed the landscape of University Circle. We built on the parking lots, and people found places to park. I will say, I think event parking is the place to pilot this. When I was traveling through the downtown on a game night recently, $70 across the street from one of those ballparks. I think maybe an increment of piloting tax on that particular experience might be something to look at as a starting point.
Mr. Weingart.
As I said earlier, I'm not in favor of increasing taxes on anybody right now, especially in this difficult time we're facing in America. Now, you should know about University Circle. In 2020, Chris borrowed $85 million to invest in parking garages in University Circle, so that now the #1 source of revenue for UCI is fees from those parking garages. Without those fees, UCI probably can't operate.
A rebuttal? It is a factual inaccuracy. This is unfortunately a pattern in this campaign. Statements that are made and are not true. What Mr. Weingart is talking about, he first accused us of taking on too much debt as an organization before he actually looked into the situation. We were a pass-through as a nonprofit for a hospital that ultimately, from an existing structure, found a way to monetize revenues to help patients during the pandemic. Those are the facts.
Can I rebut? It's on the balance sheet of UCI, $85 million of debt in parking garages. That does not encourage public transportation or bicycles in UCI.
Next question. What is your vision for a Cuyahoga County transportation system that is accessible to people with disabilities? And that'll be Mr. Weingart first.
Well, we certainly have to make sure that our buses are equipped to help those with disabilities. And those who can't get on a bus that's got those particular characteristics need to have other support. We need to move people throughout Cuyahoga County to job sites and to other places. So I'll work with RTA and other partners like you to make sure we have transit options for those who have disabilities.
And Mr. O'Neill.
Quick story about my stepfather. He's been legally blind for the last 20 years. He is a regular rider to the Cole Eye Clinic, among other places. And one of the great things about RTA is the responsiveness of the drivers to those who do have visual impediments and other impediments. I just wanted to give a plug to the RTA drivers on that matter because I live it with my stepdad and his experiences. I would say that this is what the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure is going to be all about. It's about working across the sectors within the county, within the private sector, and with the nonprofit sector to make sure that those who have paratransit needs get what they need, both on the RTA paratransit vehicles, but again, in that next mile. So we're going to be mapping out with our local communities what residents need. I really look forward to that. I think it's an area that we, because of the infrastructure we have, can really, really move quickly on.
All right, thank you both. In 2019, the county completed the Cuyahoga Greenways Plan, which envisioned a county-wide network of off-road trails and on-road, low-stress pedestrian and bicycle facilities accessible for persons of all ages and abilities. In addition, the county adopted the Lakefront Access Plan recently to build resilience and connections along our lakefront. How will you direct your administration and engage municipalities to rapidly implement these plans? We'll start with Mr. Ronayne.
Well, we're doing it. I'm proud to say I just cycled off the Canalway Partners Board of Directors here tonight, and we just finished the final miles of the Towpath Trail. And we've got a lot more work to do in the River Valley. I'm looking forward to Irishtown Bend getting completed. I'm looking forward to the connectors to our neighborhoods, and I'm looking forward from those neighborhoods connectors out to our suburban communities. This is a city, a county, a region that stands to be Trail City USA, the place, because of the 100-year legacy of the Cleveland Metro Parks, to build from. We will be that place. So I look forward to further implementing the county green print plan. I'm a former county planning commission employee and the city planning director who worked the Cleveland lakefront, and that's why tonight I felt there's things that need to be fixed and there's some real promising improvements. I'm glad about the Cheers plan, and I want to see in the freshwater capital the lake be a trail around the Great Lakes. I wrote it a few years ago myself in about 8 days, got around Lake Erie. We need to celebrate this all across the Lake Erie shoreline and beyond.
Thank you. Mr. Weingart.
I understand the importance of the Greenway plan to the folks in this room tonight. And I want to work with you when I'm county executive to expand that plan with the suburbs to make sure it becomes a reality. But I must tell you, my priorities are more basic than that. We are the poorest city in America, the worst place to live if you're a black woman, or start a business if you're a black person. We have to get back to basics in this county. Basics to me means home ownership for 10,000 families. It means 4,000 new, good-paying jobs in the urban core. It also means a $10 million fund to help form and grow 250 new urban-based minority-owned businesses. Once we check those boxes, we move forward on other projects.
Thank you. The county receives funds through the state motor fuel tax, state highway user fees, Ohio general and special revenue allocations, federal programs, and other sources to support local infrastructure projects. And 12% of county residents do not have access to a private automobile. So how will you access and use county, state, and federal transportation funds to complete the county greenways plan, support other active transportation projects, and improve more mobility for residents without a car? Mr. Weingart.
Well, RTA receives 1% of the sales tax, which is about $210 million a year. It's a significant contribution from the taxpayers of this county to mobility in this county. So I'm not willing to go above that 1% right now. I am willing, as a lobbyist, to go to Columbus and work with my Republican friends in the General Assembly and the governor's office to get more of our fair share of dollars. We have not seen in this county operating dollars or capital budget dollars that were fair to Cuyahoga County. And I would tell you, running as a Republican is a huge disadvantage. I know that. But being a Republican is a huge advantage when it comes to bringing back more state operating dollars and capital dollars for transportation projects.
Mr. O'Neill.
I just want to go back to one thing I think that we just need to all continue to consider. I think we need to be very careful about talking about, one, who rides on trails. I think we have to lean in and realize that everybody with opportunity is riding, and that we need to improve on that, but that we shouldn't say necessarily that there's us, them, others who aren't riding. I think we need to look at this as multimodal, as multi-community, as multi-generational, as multi-ethnic. I just need to say that because I think that's what holds us back. I think that that's a problem in the state of Ohio when I had a legislator say, we need more badges, not more buses. You know, I think we need to take our own narrative to the state, to the United States, and say to our Capitol and to our Congress, look, this is about mobility. This is about equity. This is about economic competitiveness. I'm going to lean in on that every time, and we'll be down there in 2023 making that case.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now move into the lightning round portion of this event. As a reminder, candidates will have 15 seconds to answer each of these questions. If you would like to answer the question with just a yes or a no, that would be great. But we will alternate as well who goes first. Some of these topics you've already touched on, but we're going to cover them all again just to be thorough. So first off, will you commit to appointing only public transit riders to the RTA board? Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Mr. Weingart.
Yes.
Excellent. Would you create incentives to encourage, please hold your applause, thank you. It's just the acoustics and everything. Would you create incentives to encourage county staff to bike, walk, and take public transportation to work? Mr. Weingart.
I would, yes.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Cities across the country are installing protected bike lanes with physical separation between bike and automobile traffic to encourage more people to ride and to make our roadways safer for all users. Do you support the installation of protected bike lanes on county roads? Mr. Ronayne.
I do.
Mr. Weingart.
I do, but I want to know how much it costs first, right? So I got to make sure we can afford it before I can commit fully, but I'm open to the idea.
As county executive, will you use modes of transportation other than your car to get around? Mr. Weingart.
Yes, I will.
Mr. Ronayne.
I did tonight.
And if you could specify what your plans are, that would be great. I'll go back to Mr. Weingart first.
I live in Shaker Heights, so I would ride the rapid transit downtown.
And Mr. Ronayne.
As my friends from University Circle know, we did regular bike to work days together, and it was a regular occurrence. I use the trails. I come up just from the great metro parks through our lakefront bike path that I worked on.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
I came up
Ronayne.
the North Marginal
Thank
to
you.
UC.
When was the last time you rode the RTA, and where were you going? Mr. Ronayne.
Tuesday, from Cleveland State to Public Square.
Mr. Weingart.
It was probably a couple months ago on the RTA coming downtown.
Have you ever lived car-free in Cuyahoga County? As a car-free person, this is something that is important to me. Mr. Weingart.
No, I have not.
Mr. Ronayne.
Yes, and as Mr. Seidlitz knows out there, we worked on a book called Car Free in Cleveland, and it was a wonderful experience with you, John.
One ride on an RTA bus or train currently costs $2.50. Do you think that is a fair price for taking the bus in Cuyahoga County? Mr. Ronayne.
I think where needed, we need for equity purposes to have that subsidized, and we also need to really lean in on commuter advantage. So I think it's proportionally high relative to the income here in this area, but I don't want to handicap the revenue streams unnecessarily.
Mr. Weingart.
I would subsidize, I would tie it to eligibility for other federal and state benefit programs like Medicaid.
Okay. Would you commit to requiring communities that receive roadway funds from the county to implement complete streets elements when included in a plan, or where data shows the need for improved safety? Mr. Weingart.
I would not require that, no.
Mr. Ronayne.
There's a way to incentivize it. Years ago, when a community would commit to a community master plan, they had incentives to get economic development dollars as well. I think there's a way to do it.
And finally, the founding general manager of RTA said in 1977, right now, RTA happens to be operating in Cuyahoga County, but ultimately, RTA should cover 5 counties. Do you believe that RTA should ultimately merge with other agencies in Northeast Ohio to create a more regional transit provider? Mr. Ronayne.
I think we need to work with the county commissioners of the outer counties, Lake County, Emmets, and others, to think about regional financing strategies. That's the name of the game. How can we get more dollars here? The operating will come, but we need together to work on getting more revenues in.
Mr. Weingart.
Only if the other counties pay their fair share.
That concludes our lightning round. We will now move on to our pre-selected audience questions. My co-moderator, Jenna Thomas, is in the audience and is with a roving microphone. Candidates, once again, will have 60 seconds to answer each of these questions and an opportunity for rebuttal if they are mentioned.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Singh. I live in the Clark Fulton neighborhood in Cleveland, and I work just next door here in Midtown Cleveland. For the past few years, I've been working with a group of downtown and Asiatown residents on a resident-led initiative to reimagine our streets. Many of them are here with me today. There is a hunger from Cuyahoga County residents to have more input on what our streets look like and what strategies can be implemented to stop speeding and reckless driving. What will your administration do to ensure that residents have a voice in how our streets are designed? And how will you urge municipalities to conduct meaningful community engagement on county roadway projects?
Thank you, Karis. We'll go to Mr. Weingart first.
So policing is a municipal function or a private function, as it is in some places around Cuyahoga County. It's not a county function. We have a sheriff's department with deputies, but we don't have police officers who issue speeding tickets in Cuyahoga County. So I would love to work with the city of Cleveland and other cities on their policies. I do see a lot of people speed often, and I think it's obviously very unsafe. So I don't see the county having a direct leadership role, but I'd love to work with cities like Cleveland and others to make sure we keep our streets safe for our pedestrians.
Mr. Ronayne.
One of my heroes is Jeanette Khan, who was Commissioner of Transportation in New York City for a number of years. We had her out to speak here. She's written a great book called Street Fight. She transformed New York City. 5 boroughs, she transformed it into places that were humanized, bike-friendly, ped-friendly, and just places that you could congregate in. I would work with people like Mayor Brennan, not to put you on the spot, and Councilman Bryan next to him, people that are truly, and a member of Bike Cleveland, that are truly committed to changing their community landscape. We can design this for a successful future, and all of a sudden, I think other communities are going to be a bit envious of it when they see that people want to flock to interesting places that are multimodal, that are places where they can actually enjoy their outdoor public realm. Let's do it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. So I live car-free in the city, and as you all already mentioned, the county has been sprawling for the past 50 years, partially due to car-centric infrastructure. The county holds a unique position in regards to transit or transportation policy, but a lot of those policies have been focused on roads and EVs as the future. What specific policy ideas do you have to support buses and bikes over cars?
Thank you, Ayat. We'll go to Mr. Ronayne first.
We did it in University Circle. First of all, we built on most of the parking lots there and made it a pedestrian-friendly place by nature. But I would say go look at the bulb outs of our curbs where when a woman was hit on Mayfield Road, we went into action. We actually created view sheds with bollarded view sheds so pedestrians had the priority on that street. We started something called Project Yield, where we were very focused on making sure at the intersections motorists were slowing down. There's things you can do in a community at a low budget, and then there's the higher budget issues. I support the Midway right south of here. I am very focused on making sure that our streets are complete and working, again, with willing communities to do so. County planning, the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, working with other departments, we will make this happen. We will make this a more complete community strategy. Thanks.
Mr. Weingart.
There's so much to be done in Cuyahoga County. We have children at risk. We have families in crisis. It's difficult to take my focus off of those things. But I love to work, again, with the groups that are here tonight, with RTA, to make sure that we're spreading our transit dollars and we are giving equity to both highways and to public transportation. I think that's a good start, and so that's what I would do as county executive.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Taylor, Executive Director of St. Clair Superior Development Corporation. I live in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood, walked here in about 5 minutes from my house. And we are sitting in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood, which is one of Cleveland's lakefront communities. But it doesn't always feel that way. You guys have mentioned a couple of projects like the Superior Midway, a protected pedestrian pathway from downtown all the way to East 55th, and then the Cuyahoga Eastern Embayment Resilience Study that Metro Parks is doing. Both are in their design phases and drawing a lot of attention to the neighborhood. And our communities have been subject to these kind of plans countless times for our lakefront connectivity. As county executive, what will you do to turn these plans into a reality so that myself and other residents can fully enjoy our great lake without needing a car?
Thank you, Jeremy. We'll go to Mr. Weingart first.
So I think the city has to take the lead when it comes to lakefront development. All that property is owned by the city of Cleveland, and I see a role for the county to play for sure. But here's, I guess, my twist on it. If we start downtown and we work our way east to Gordon Park, we'll never get there. We'll spend all the money between downtown and we won't get to Gordon Park. On the west side, you have a wonderful Edgewater Beach, but you have nothing comparable on the east side. So if I'm going to commit county resources to lakefront development, I'm not going to start downtown and work east. I'm going to start at Gordon Park and work back toward downtown.
All right. Mr. Ronayne.
Yeah, Jeremy, thanks for all you do. We've been here doing this. I was at the Port Authority when Dike 14 was converted onto the Lakefront Nature Preserve. It was a outgrowth of the Cleveland Lakefront Plan when we listened to residents who said, protect this space and open it up to the public, so we did. I applaud the Metro Parks for what they're doing with the Cheers plan. I would take the First Energy plant to the south of I-90, and I would get it in our control, and I would make that part of the Gordon Park, South Gordon Park area. I would listen to the potentiality of Metro Parks taking on Gordon Park, and I would fix the areas, I just wrote it, of the North Marginal that need even more protected bike infrastructure. And the median between the highway and the roadway can be just that. It's wide. I'll put it out on Twitter tonight. Let's do it. Let's make it an accessible East Side lakefront.
Thank you both.
Hi, good evening. My name's Chris. I'm a volunteer with Clevelanders for Public Transit and a past member of All Aboard Ohio. I just want to mention I've worked on the past 3 state budgets to try to get more transportation funding. And in a perfect world, what we're really shooting for is like 150 million a year, which for RTA would be maybe 30, 40 million out of a 330 million budget. It's not enough. So I just want to highlight the role that we need more local funding. But my question tonight is, despite taking millions of public dollars from the county government, projects like Public Square, Sherwin-Williams headquarters, they're not really friendly to transit riders. I ride the bus downtown every day, and that crosswalk into Tower City is used as a parking lot for the Rebel restaurant on the new $50 million Public Square. It's not great. There's also bike racks around Public Square that are blocked when Rebel takes their trash out. This morning I saw a bike that was locked on the rack that was surrounded by trash cans. So we spent $50 million on this project, including millions from the county. It's not really working for everyone, and Sherwin-Williams headquarters has declined to have benches or like any retail space in their new building or restrooms, any really public amenities at all. So in the future, how will you ensure economic development projects that you subsidize have public amenities like seating for bus riders, 24/7 restrooms, bus stops, and shelters? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll go first to Mr. Ronayne.
Thanks, Chris. There's a great book called City Comforts, and take a look at it. It's all about what you just described. When I was at City Planning, we looked at that book and we implemented it. We did a program called City Rack, City Seats. I don't know if Marty Cater's here tonight, but I promoted him to be the first bike coordinator of the city of Cleveland. And we brought 500 racks and 500 benches to the city of Cleveland. We can do more, we can find grants, and we will do it. The transit waiting environment is critical, and it's got to be well done. That keeps riders on transit and keeps them coming back. Thanks.
Mr. Weingart.
So I'm not sure it's the role of a private company to provide 24/7 bathrooms or benches to the public. I would much rather work with that company or organization to find funding for that, but I'm not going to tie a county incentive to those actions. Sherwin-Williams is moving 1,000 new jobs into the city of Cleveland. They could have taken their 3,000 jobs to North Carolina. I don't think we want to put additional burdens right now on our leading employers like Sherwin-Williams or the Cleveland Clinic or University Hospitals. We want to make sure we're taking care of those who employ our people.
Thank you both.
Good evening. My name is Bishop Chewy. I'm a Glenville resident and a board member of Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless. And my question is, public transit is a common point of contact between police and the unhoused. RTA Police is one of the largest departments in the county and the biggest K-9 unit in the state, costing $15 million each year. Put together, this paints a picture of Cuyahoga County that highly values the criminalization of homelessness. This is morally wrong and ineffective at ending homelessness. As county executive, how would you approach the policy intersection of public transit, homelessness, and policing?
Thank you, Bishop. We'll go to Mr. Weingart first.
We've got in this county a private policing problem. RTA shouldn't have armed guards enforcing the rules. We should decriminalize people who don't pay their fares. We have a problem as well, as Chris knows, targeting black drivers by private police departments. As county executive, I'm going to do a top-to-bottom review of every private police force in this county. They're not accountable to elected officials. They're not accountable to the citizens. We need to make sure that our police are accountable to the citizens, whether they be the RTA police or the UCI police who targeted black drivers.
Mr. Ronayne.
So, Bishop, thanks a lot for your question. This is why I will at the county have both a transportation and mobility infrastructure department and a housing department. Met with Chris, your director at NEOC, the other night. We co-committed to ending unsheltered homelessness as a starting point, and that's a goal of mine. It's what we will do. You are absolutely right about RTA and the stops being places that should never have been, but continue to be, particularly drop-off points for officers that are trying to figure out where to bring someone. They should not be taking a person who's suffering mental health challenge to jail. They should not be taking them to an emergency department, and they should not be dropping them off at a bus shelter. All of these, we need to actually source them with the services to take them where they need to be at treatment beds. So I will commit to continue to work with you on that. And as far as officer training, we are absolutely about a process of civilian review, about making sure they have body cameras, and most importantly, implicit bias training across all police departments.
Thank you, Mr. Ronayne.
County.
Hey everybody, my name's Jack Brincatelli. I'm a resident of downtown Cleveland, right over by Cleveland State. I'm also the new Cleveland Metropolitan School District's Safe Routes to School coordinator. So my question's kind of two parts is, what strategies will you implement to make biking and walking a safer option for students around the county? And with that, how will you work with municipalities to create safe routes to school plans all across the county?
We'll go first to Mr. Ronayne.
Jack, I'm very excited about your new job. I look forward to working with you. It's of paramount importance. First of all, training, obviously, education, not just of the student, but motorists, right? I think we need to really focus on the infrastructure, our flashers, people knowing where they are, and making sure that our intersections are safe. When we were in University Circle, we did programs with our kids, and a police department was Pedal with the Police, and both got to know each other, and both were focused on safe routes. This is a huge, important issue with distracted drivers and every other reason that people are speeding through communities. We've got to slow people down and protect our kids, our elderly, and everybody. Thanks. Looking forward to working with you.
Mr. Weingart.
So I understand the importance of the issue, but I can't be everything to everybody as the county executive. There are so many challenges in county government. This county government for the past 25 years has focused on 16,000 different things and done none of them well. I want to narrow the focus of what the executive does to make sure that we're delivering the basic services, health and human service to those in need, focusing on private home ownership, growing jobs, growing companies, and bringing people back into this county. So I'd love to work with you on that initiative, on that priority, but I'm going to focus on the things where the rubber hits the road that really move people's lives forward: housing, jobs, security.
All right, that brings us to the end of the pre-selected audience questions.
Yeah.
How are we doing on time?
We are doing well, but I think we're going to move into closing statements now.
Excellent. And so we're going to reverse the order, and we will ask Mr. Ronayne to give his closing statement first.
Thank you, and thanks for being here tonight. Thank you for your advocacy. I want to say that I envision a future Cuyahoga County with quality, connected communities, and that includes multimodal complete streets. That includes sidewalk infrastructure. That includes bike plans. We will do this, and I also envision us on the freshwater capital as a place that will reach its natural assets like Lake Erie and the Cuyahoga River. We should be Trail City, USA, again, with the Metro Parks as a great baseline to build from. I want to stress two things. This is about equity. This is about economic competitiveness. I will have the time to focus on these because we will know how to hire competent department directors at the new Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, working with others throughout Cuyahoga County, particularly our mayors and our communities all throughout Cuyahoga County. We can do this. We can be a multimodal city of the future. We can be a transit positive, a transit-connected county of the future. We can bring more transit dollars to the equation. We didn't talk about other sources, even our own foundations. We can be a place that is a model of how to get around and is the model of how to connect and is a model of health. I'm looking forward to working with you. I've seen other metros get ahead of us, places like Pittsburgh. It's Cleveland's time.
Mr. Weingart.
So the good news on this election is you've got a real opportunity to choose between two candidates. Now, I think we both generally understand the problems in Cuyahoga County, but we have vastly different visions on how to solve those problems. Chris wants to grow the government, Department of Housing, Transportation, Ombudsman, International Affairs, at least those four we've had in the forums we've had so far. I don't want to invest in a government that is failing and has failed for 25 years. Rather, I want to invest in you, in the communities, in programs that help people get their lives back together again. So I talked about 10,000 private homes, 4,000 good-paying jobs, 250 new small businesses. There is, as I said earlier, a transit connect to all those things, because transit doesn't exist outside of where you live and where you work. So I will integrate transit into my vision. But my vision is different than his. It's about investing in our community, not growing our government, growing our county. If you like that vision, I ask for your support on November 8th, Lee Weingart for County Executive.
All right, join me in giving these two candidates a round of applause for this very detailed policy discussion we just had.
Good to see you. Thanks.